Okay, everybody, I just wanted to make a quick video here on our Canvas page, hitting some important spots again as a review, and also maybe focus in on the lab portion and everything that you need to sort of complete before our lab day. Once again, really an important section of our Canvas page is the announcements section, which obviously has important announcements. You want to make sure that you continuously check this site and this part of Canvas throughout the semester, as obviously important announcements regarding quizzes, exams, the class itself will probably be posted here. As we talked about, pretty much the other most important part is the module section. The module section is pretty much where you're going to find everything for this course. And it's broken up again into two parts. The very top part here has the header here for the lecture. So everything that's involving the lecture is found towards the top here of the module section. So underneath here in this next module, as you can see, we have our syllabus that we talked about, things like a periodic table, some helpful links. Next, we have some office hour information. So again, if you click on this, it'll talk about all the office hours. Also, again, the link to go to our virtual office hours and when those are on. This next module section here, as you roll down from the top, is really your kind of registration module. And this is for all the Cengage stuff. So remember that you have two access codes. If you have not done so already, these are really the links that you want to use to register using those access codes. Remember that the access code, or the thing that says OW homework, is basically like textbook homework out of the back of the book, but it's just done online, and that should be one access code. And if you go through that link, it should put you into the correct course. You won't need any type of course ID or anything like that. The one underneath it is the pre-lab skills, and that's the pre-lab questions for the lab component, which should be your other sort of access code that you have. Once you link these up, and it will probably ask you obviously to make an account if you don't have one. You really don't need to necessarily go through these links. You can, I think, but probably the easiest way to access individual assignments that needs to be done on Cengage is actually through the different modules here on Canvas. So for example, if we go down to the next one, this is the first several weeks. And this is pretty much all the chapters are going to be on exam number 1. And again, some things that you'll find are lecture notes. So again, if you want to click on these, you could use these. You could download them, use them however you want. The lecture notes that we go through, the PowerPoint notes. And then here's really the homework assignment. So these are really the homework assignments for exam 1. And this is probably the easiest way to get to each sort of homework assignment that you need. These are homework assignments, which means this is your OW. And when you click on it, it will take you here, and you could click on that, and it will take you to the actual homework assignment that you have up here on Cengage. And you'll do this. And again, this is like if you were going to take the textbook and do homework problems at the end of the chapter. Now, you have links for each of the individual homework assignments that you need to complete. So again, this is probably the easiest way to access those is through the individual modules. The homework assignments, the OWL homework, which again is like textbook homework that you do online, will typically be due 2 days before the exam that covers those chapters. So they're all up there. You can individually click on one. You should be able to start on working on one, go back, stop, and work, and make sure that you do submit it. Also, you'll find some exam reviews as well for that particular exam. Here's exam 2 chapters. Again, our lecture notes for each of those chapters, the individual homework assignments that you need to complete for those chapters. Once again, those guys will be due, for example, a couple of days before exam 2 is taken. And again, some review material. Exam 3, same deal. Lecture notes. Exam 3 chapters and homework assignment links to go to Cengage. Review material. Exam 4, again, lecture notes for those chapters, individual homework assignment links that take you to the Cengage site to do, review material. And obviously for our final here, we have one chapter that we do not take an exam on, but will be on the final, and that's that information here. Now, after that, we have our lab header. So towards the bottom of the module section, underneath this header, it basically has all the information regarding lab underneath it. In this actual module itself, it has a lot of important information. So make sure that you read through each of these and you understand what needs to be done. Essentially speaking, for every lab that we do, we will be doing 2 different experiments, and we will have basically 2 pre-labs for each experiment. And that means for every lab day, pretty much you have 4 total pre-labs that you need to complete before the day of the experiment. Those pre-labs are typically due the day before, I think the night before. So since we have lab on Wednesday, they will typically be due on Tuesday night, and they do need to be completed by Tuesday before the lab. So you hopefully did the lab safety exercise already, but just so you know, these are all the individual lab PDF files. So as we talked about, you could either buy a printed out lab manual from the bookstore, or you could use these PDF files and print them out yourself. Once again, you do need the actual lab printed on paper. You do need to fill it out in pen. When you do the experiment, you cannot have it on your phone. You cannot fill it out on a tablet. You need these things printed out when you get there. So this module here has all the labs we're going to do the entire semester. So just pretty much what this module is. After that module, what I've done is by week, I have basically inputted all the labs that you need to do for that particular week, and the pre-lab assignments and the pre-lab links and all those type of things. So week 1 here wasn't much going on, but here's week 2. And in week 2, we're going to do experiment 2, and we will do experiment 3. So first thing that you'll find is the PDF file once again for experiment 2, which you need to read before the experiment. You also need, again, to have a printed copy with you for Wednesday when you come to lab. After you read it, you print it, you have it. Here is the first of 2 pre-labs that you need to do. The ones that are labeled pre-lab, online are the Cengage pre-labs. So these are the ones that if you click on it, and you click on this link, it will take you to the Cengage site where you could do the actual pre-lab questions. So that is one of the 2 pre-labs that you need to do for each experiment. You can find the individual links to those pre-labs in these weekly lab modules, which can be found towards the bottom of our module section here on Canvas. The second pre-lab is, you could call it a Canvas pre-lab, a written pre-lab. If you click on it, you will find this information here of exactly what you need to do for this one. You could also find it on the syllabus. Essentially, you need to have read the experiment. You need to, as it says here, write a 1-page minimum, and it does need to be handwritten, not typed, outline for the experimental procedure for the experiment that you're going to perform. You should not copy word for word the lab experiment PDF or the lab manual. You should read it, use your own words, and explain exactly what's going to happen and all the procedures for that particular experiment. You don't need to write incomplete sentences. You could use a bullet point sort of if you want. I can make like a flow chart. You could do some pictures. You can kind of make an outline, but it needs to be complete enough that it talks about the procedures you're going to perform, any equipment that you're going to use, enough that I know you have previously read the experiment and have an idea of what's going on. Obviously, once you have that, you need to turn that into a PDF file. You could hit start assignment, And this is where you would upload your assignment and submit the assignment. Once again, it does need to be a PDF file, one PDF file. It will not accept anything other than a PDF file. So when we look at this module for experiment 2 here, we have the actual experiment. We have the Cengage pre-lab, which needs to be completed by Tuesday before Wednesday's experiment. We have the written pre-lab, which is what you write by yourself after reading the experiment in your own words, the procedure that needs to be uploaded to Canvas also the day before on Tuesday night. And lastly, what we will have for experiment 2 is the actual submission that you need to do once the lab is completed on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, you will be able to have filled out your data pages, which will include your data table that we looked at. It will also include any calculations and post-lab questions. And that also will need to be uploaded as a PDF file, perhaps before lab is over at school. As we talked about, you need a way to do that reliably, turn a file into a PDF and upload it at school. Just like the written pre-lab, when you're ready to do that, you hit start assignment and you choose your file, you submit your file as well. A reminder that when you do that, it is your responsibility to make sure that you go back and make sure that the correct file has been uploaded. It is on you to do that. If you choose not to go back into your submission and make sure it's the right file and you uploaded the wrong file, then it may be considered late if you upload the right file after the due date. So just take that minute or two maybe to go back into your upload and double check that everything uploaded correctly is the right file, is completed, it has all the pages and everything like that. And again, it's your responsibility to do that. So for example, here, experiment 2 PDF file, the actual experiment, Cengage pre-lab, written pre-lab, and experiment 2's lab submission. We will then have the exact same thing for the second experiment in this module. We are also going to be doing experiment 3, for example. Same day we're going to be doing experiment 2. You'll have the PDF file here that will load, that you can download and print. Again, you do need a printed copy. Once again, the Cengage online pre-lab, the written online pre-lab, and where you will submit it. When we go to the next week, week 3, for example, we're going to be doing experiment 4 and experiment 5. So same thing, experiment PDF, Cengage pre-lab, written pre-lab, submission. And if you go through all the rest of the modules towards the bottom here, you'll have in every week the experiments that we're going to be doing, the pre-lab links directly to Cengage, the pre-lab links to the Canvas one that you need to upload, and the submission links will all be found in the weekly modules for the lab. So basically, you kind of have to go through everything that's in that module for that week for lab, and pretty much you need to turn everything in that spot. So the easiest way to access everything that's sort of a Cengage, either homework or pre-lab, is using the direct links to those assignments that can be found in each of these modules here on Canvas. So a reminder that anything that says OW, or like chapter 1 homework, that's all lecture, and that's all lecture type of stuff that you need to do that will be completed on Cengage. Anything that says pre-lab online, that's lab skills, which is lab stuff. So hopefully this will kind of clarify maybe some points for everybody in case you did have some questions. Take home message, everything for lecture towards the top of the module section, everything for lab towards the bottom. You have 2 pre-labs that need to be completed before Wednesday's lab day, and they typically will be due Tuesday night, and that means 2 for each lab that we do. And once again, since we are doing 2 labs a day, that basically means you have 4 pre-labs. So if we look at the week 2 module here, pre-lab 1 is experiment 2 Cengage, pre-lab 2 is experiment 2's written, pre-lab 3 is experiment 3 Cengage, and Pre-lab 4 is experiment 3's written. You also have 2 submissions, one for experiment 2's when you're done with the physical experiment on Wednesday, for example, and one for experiment 3. All right, so I think we'll wrap that up here. Hopefully that clarified some things for you, and we'll see you next time.